icebreaker. And feel free to share in the chats, where do you land on the cat mood spectrum this morning or this afternoon or this evening? We look forward to finding out from you how you feel. And open the chats. Don't see anything there yet, but let us know how you feel. That's okay, Ilona. Thanks for joining, even though you're on holiday. Hope you're having a nice time. Let us know in the chats how you're feeling. I hope you feel happy since you're on holiday. Yeah. Oh, Nadia, you should indeed wear a hat with your sunstroke. Ilona's happy, Rua. What does that mean, 5? I hope it means you feel relaxed. Oh yeah, 7. Kerime is feeling like 7. Oh no. More people are feeling like 7. Everybody's feeling like 7. I think we're in need of a break. I know in some parts of the world there is an Easter break ahead of us, so I hope you can enjoy that. Oh, you're feeling lazy, Rua. That's great. How do I feel? Actually, I feel like 9, I think. Great. Well, I hope everybody will feel more like 6, maybe at the end of today's session. Let's aim for it. I'll get us going. I think some more people will join us in a little bit, but we have a full program planned today, as always. With us today is our lovely facilitator, Rosa. I'll properly introduce her next, but she will cover the key content of Module 3 today, this week. And she is based in Peru at Care Peru, so she will also be sharing evidence from Care Peru for advocacy. Of course, there's time for questions and answers from Rosa. And we really want to spend more time in breakout rooms, or for you to spend time in breakout rooms. We acknowledge that last time this was very rushed. We also saw this in the module feedback form. We always try to balance covering the key content, especially for those who haven't managed to go through the content before the live session. But of course, we also want to allow exchange between all of us. So we're going to do our best to have more time for that this week. And as always, we'll quickly look at the individual assignment to see if you have any questions about that. The housekeeping rules are the same as always. If you can open your camera, please do. Feel free to jump in if you have any questions, raise your hand or open your mic. And this is being recorded, and we'll be able to find the recording on Curator, as well as the slides at the end of the session. As said, with us today is Rosa Morales Saravia. I'll pass it to you, Rosa, to quickly introduce yourself. Hopefully all of you have also already seen Rosa's welcome video on Curator. Rosa, are you with us? Is the connection okay?
Yes, I'm here. I just turned off my camera for a moment because of the connection.
That's okay. We're happy to have you with us. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Very nice meeting you all. My name is Rosa Morales Arabia. I currently am the manager for the climate change, Amazon, and water resources at Care Peru. I've been working on environmental issues, climate change issues, sustainable development at the end for more than 25 years. I also had some experience, 10-year experience in the government on climate change specifically. Also, I come from the research area in Peru, and I'm very happy to be here with you this morning in Peru and afternoon, and even in some other places.
Thank you, Rosa. Would you like to share the slide deck now, Rosa? Shall I
Sure,
stop sharing so that you can share it?
sure. Okay, so as we all know, we are here in this module to deep a little bit dive in the evidence aspect of things, and we wanted to know at this moment if you had the chance to go through the materials, through the information that you have in the curator, so that we have a feeling of where we stand in terms of the material you have already revised. Okay, what we're seeing is that, yeah, most of the people have had at least the chance to look at it partially, and a lot of people, I would say 44%, do have seen the materials. So given this, I think that, okay, we have already the information. So we can go directly through the information that we have prepared for you this morning. And okay, let's see. Okay, so given this, can you share with us, please, what aspects that you found the most useful for your work or for your knowledge, even on how do you think it can be useful for you? You just may open your mic so that we can share, you can share your views with us. Something that you found especially useful or not, maybe the other the other way. Something that was well, we're going to have a little space for questions, but still, maybe you can think of it as, how is it that evidence is part of the whole advocacy work that may be done, and how is it that your own work can help you do the advocacy work? Can someone share some views? Shall I call you?
Don't be shy, everybody. We need you to participate.
See Abdul, Ali, Ilona, Karim, Rua, Shaden.
Yeah, Rosa, I think
Hi.
from my side, the part where I found how to collect evidences and how to share it, how the evidences can be used to build a good advocacy is the best one for me. I think it will be most helpful for me in my work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abdul. Actually, it's one of the most important things, and one of the most difficult sometimes. In developing countries, we know that the lack of information is something that we have to face every time right? So yes, I think that that would be a very good starting point. And I see there is another Ilona. She's saying, why not use an opinion of a high regarded expert as evidence if it is hard to get a more scientific one and she is very knowledgeable on the topic? I see your point, and this is part of what we had already as another question coming from that was we picked from the curator. I think I'm not sure if that is your own question, but we have in these slides one question very related to yours, Ilona. And I think that what we are trying to say here is that, okay, not yours, but it's the same question. And I think that what we're trying to do here is to identify what can be a non-refutable argument or evidence, specifically evidence. But of course, in my view, at least also in my experience, the opinions of experts can complement, can make your point stronger. But only to rely on opinions might not be a very or strong enough argument. So I think that a combination of different sources, including those of the experts, those opinions, but we have to keep them as they are. They are opinions still. Of course, as I said, they can reinforce what you might have. Maybe you don't have the whole bunch of evidence that you would like, but you can complement this with some experts' opinions. That would be how I would put it and how would I myself use it, because we've always, not always, but we find ourselves in those positions sometimes, that we would not be in a position to have all the evidence that we would prefer to have, or to be in an ideal situation in terms of gathering evidence. I don't know if that would help. Yeah, for me also, in our realities, it's something that we have to think of. Okay, so let's move on. And given that we already have people that might that could or was they were looking for the information in the curator, they could make it. We're going to pass this, not that we're not going to stay very much on what you have in those materials, but rather we are going to go through them somewhat quickly. So as we all know, let me, I have this Zoom's information that I have to move so I can see the slide. So some of the key content that we saw and that some people are going to look in the curator has to do with the use of evidence to accomplish a change in policy favorable to climate change, for instance. So as our colleague Abdu told us, this use of the evidence is something that is very important, and we have to have a very specific and very clear objective in what we want to achieve. For instance, we have an example in the materials, in the information that we have, that brings us the case of how is it that, for example, in the development of a national adaptation plan, we can include some aspects that might not be there if we do not intervene. For instance, gender equality. And this is one example that you're going to find in the materials. We have also to assess the evidence and make sure of its quality, so that we can use it adequately. And of course, again, the quality of the information, the quality of the evidence is something that it's going to make the case that we want to make very strong. When this evidence or the information can be left aside because it's not true what we're saying, or it's not completely true, then our arguments are going to be weak. And also, of course, there is these stages in how to gather the evidence or generating the evidence messages, and how to monitor the advocacy also is critical. So I think that these steps make sense in the given that we want to make a process. The process of advocacy is something that goes in time, and it's very important to have a very clear knowledge or clarity of where we stand in every moment of it. So then, again, the idea of bringing evidence in the policy asks and the advocacy messages is useful because it helps to have this strong case so that we can influence policy. And here in the materials, what we have was 3 steps, right? That we're going to see in a moment, but some of the reasons why we want to be very strong in evidence is because it helps to persuade. It can also show the challenges and bring some personalized, I would say, stories, personalized evidence. People always say that policymakers and maybe not only policymakers, but the population as a whole are more touched by stories, right? But by success stories or specific stories of peoples, and people get to identify themselves with those stories. And this is what makes possible some changes also in the mindset of policymakers or even the audience of these policymakers. So having this clarity on what evidence is the one that we need would also help us target our audience, our audience, and to be very in a best position to identify the need and the possible ways to engage in this advocacy work. It also will help to drive the elaboration of the collective narrative, and this is linked to what I just mentioned on how to get not only to the policymakers, but also to the audience, their specific audience they want to get to or to reach. And it will also help to make our argument not easily contestable. And this has to do with the weakness or not of our arguments. And it would also make it harder to dissemble an argument when this argument is not robust. And this is the discussion that we just had on what is evidence and what is not. Of course, the facts and figures about the situation would be evidence, and we need them to be strong. What are the experiences on the ground for the implementation? And also, I mean, the information coming from the ground is going to be very strong also. For instance, in the negotiations of climate change, when you go there, I mean, it's a permanent process of advocacy, I would say. It's very interesting, this multilateral process, because every time you have to get the arguments to change the mindset, not only of one government or one country, but many countries. And I would say, in my experience, I've been there for many years, the most convincing arguments that I have found are the ones that come with information coming from the ground. Those kinds of statements are the ones that can do a better advocacy. And I've seen also sometimes some NGOs bringing this information, giving it to the negotiators, and the mindset of some people would change, even when countries come with their own positions, of course. So I think that also the fact that information coming from the ground is very strong is something that we have to keep in mind. Because I understand also that here people, most of you work in the ground. Of course, the science-based information is also something that is very important. And again, in the negotiations, this is one of the most important arguments that people bring. And finally, given that advocacy is deliberate, then the generation of specific information that can support this advocacy work is very important. And one other thing that might come also into the discussion that we had, given Ilona's question before, is that when we speak of evidence, the fact that this evidence can be qualitative and quantitative is very important, and they also complement each other. And in terms of the qualitative information, this might be the information that comes more, for instance, from experts sometimes. We also have other elements about evidence, for instance, the leverage that it can have in terms of the events that happen and that can be that we can bring some information there, and the opportunities that we can have to generate this evidence. The source of the evidence is also very important, and the credibility there is also a very important aspect. And of course, the relevance given the target that we might have on the objectives in terms of the advocacy. And this is what I was telling before in terms of the steps in generating the evidence. And here I would like to ask if some of you remember the 3 steps that we brought to you. Maybe you can write it in the chat. I see someone has put something in the chat. Okay. So maybe can we have someone that would like to share what the steps? Do you remember the steps, the 3 steps that we have in the materials, in the information? Okay, if not, Then the first step would be the gather on the evidence and the steps or the effort that we would need to give in order to find the evidence. And of course, as we said before, this has to be very targeted. And an anecdote might not be enough, or it's for sure not enough. So it's very important to find how to get it. Then the evidence should be analyzed. Also, again, in terms of the objective that we might have, I have another gathering, analyzing, developing messages. Karim, thank you. And finally, developing the evidence-based message for the policy ask that we might have. And in this final step, to be effective, it will need, I mean, I'm going to use this, no, it would need to be, as we said, based evidence, but it would need to be concise, memorable, constructive, and action-oriented. And I would like to make another comment because I just see the name Bank book mentioned before, that experience sounds very subjective. But I think that what we try to say here before is that, of course, we need to have like strong evidence in the sense that we should have something that is not subjective, but still this information can be complemented. So it's not enough to have only opinions based on experience, but those can make stronger, even stronger, these kinds of evidence that we might gather. And also the way in which we present this information should be simple and direct. Slide. Okay. And now I would like to share with you some experiences that we have in Peru. I'm sorry, these lines just, do you see the yellow lines? I'm sorry, I'm not sure why they are still there. But in any case, in Peru, I am going to present you two experiences. One that has to do with the case of a project that we have that it's called Water Unites Us. And there we are working with the Water National Authority in Peru. It stands, it has a water footprint program, and what we were trying to advocate for was for this water footprint to include the micro and small enterprises in Peru, because at the moment the regulation didn't account for them, didn't include them. And we were preparing some information related, for instance, to the companies that are already certified, which are not micro and small enterprises. We also brought information on the importance of the use of water in the micro and small enterprises, and also the amount of people that they hired. In a nutshell, the economic importance of these kinds of economic units, and how is it that they also use or maluse water. So it was very important for the certificate, the national program on water footprint, to include them. This is an ongoing work. It's not finished. We are also making a report that might see the light next month, so that we are gathering all this information so that we can continue working with the water authority to change the regulation. And the role of these micro and small enterprises should also be strengthened, but by a pilot program that we are working with the National Authority of Water in order to bring professionals trained and certified by this authority in terms of measuring the water footprint. And also we have started working with some micro and small enterprises, and we're going to get information also from there to keep on strengthening our message. And then the second again, I'm sorry for this. I don't know why this. Okay. The second case I would like to share with you is a case that is also ongoing, where we used, the climate vulnerability and capacity assessment that, as we know, helps communities to identify what is their vulnerability to the impacts of climate change, and also helps them find what are the adaptation actions that they might implement in order to reduce this vulnerability. In other 3 countries, this program, which is called She Grows the Future, in Peru, it's applied in Ayacucho and Huancavelica. And what we have done are, at the moment, workshops with the women in those communities. Here we have 4 women, and here is one representative that is making her she's sharing what they have found in the workshops. And what we've found is, in terms, for instance, of the impacts of drought, is the increase in the frequency, the reduce in agricultural productivity, the limits or the changes in the seasons, the decrease in and also the increase of risks in forest fires. So here we have some of the risks that we have found. And then we have also found, I'm going to okay. We have found the impacts on women that alters their daily routines, increase their workload, and they also have impacts on their daily activities because, for instance, of the impacts of frost. They have to take extra measures to protect their family health. And as might be a conclusion here, is that women disproportionately absorb the impacts of climate change at home and also at the level of the community. With all this evidence, we are not only going to advocate within the communities for the adaptation actions, but we are also going to advocate at the level of the local governments in order to help these organizations to have some how can I put them? Some instances that in Peru we are working very much on, which are called the indigenous peoples platforms for climate change. As we know, the Paris Agreement put us in front of us a space which is called the Indigenous Peoples and Local Communities platform in order to exchange information on the impacts of climate change and other aspects of climate change. And in Peru, we have a national platform, and then we have some regional platforms. And what these organizations that we're working with want is that they want local platforms to deal with climate change. And in some cases, what they are going to need is for the local authority, the municipalities, to set some regulations in order for them to be a part of the not of the government, of course, but yes, part of the formal levels of decision making in terms of climate change. What they are going to get with this platform is to have a voice in order to be part of the decision making on climate change. And this is our policy ask in this case. And all the information that we are gathering with them is going to be part of this policy ask case. I see that we have two questions here, I think. Okay, the CBCA. Vanessa says, I'm curious what strategies you use when you are speaking with policymakers who are not soiled by strong evidence around climate change. For example, some politicians in Canada dismiss climate evidence, ignore it, or if we look at what is happening with the Trump, when I think of these people that do not believe on climate change, on the impacts of climate change, I'm not sure if it's the only, but one strategy that I would try to use is to try to bring evidence of something that is very close to them. Maybe it's very difficult, but of course, for me, all the evidence that we have is so overwhelming that it's difficult for me to see why other people do not see it. But I think that the only way is to try to identify what is most important. Own enterprises, maybe their own firms, because something that is growing also is the worry that some firms have in terms of their own assets. Maybe they don't care about people's lives. I'm not sure if what I'm saying is too strong, but maybe they don't care about, populations or vulnerable people in other countries. But what they might do care is their own infrastructure, their own assets. And maybe if we can gather information on how this infrastructure and these assets are increasingly affected by this, and how that turns into losses in the private sector's activities, then maybe that can, I don't know, touch them. They might care about that. I think that we have to speak in their own language or in their own worries, if I may put it that way. And so, Vanessa, I shared with you what I think in those cases. Okay. Then what else do we have here? Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay, and then we had Daniel's, or in terms of Daniel's evidence webinar, we have this question, which I think we already addressed. I have here another, Vanessa, thank you. Okay, thank you too. And then here we have, if we have any other questions at this moment. I think in terms of time, Diana, are we okay? Because then we have this breakout for 20 minutes. And what we wanted you to discuss between yourselves or between the grouping here is if you can share an experience that you have by your own, or you've seen in other places or in other cases, using some evidence that has been built or generated specifically in some of your projects or programs, on your work, to influence or to make some advocacy work. So the questions would be what's worked, what challenges were faced, and if there are any success stories. I hand it over to you, Nadia or Diana.
Thank you so much, Rosa. So I also shared these questions in the WhatsApp group for those who didn't have enough time to note them down, but I will also share them again in the chat for you. So I'll be opening the breakout rooms. It would also be great if you could nominate someone to report back as well when you just join the breakout room. And yeah, we have 20 minutes, so I'll open the rooms right now. Okay, I think I see people joining their room, so that's great. I can pause.
Sneller. Welcome back, everybody. I think everybody's back, no? Do you want to start the recording again, Nadia? Oh, I can't hear you.
It's already recording.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was paused. Back to you, Rosa, and the groups.
Okay, so the groups did discussed internally, and maybe we can start a little time. We have a little time for them to report back. So maybe we can start with group 1.
The group one was with Malek, Saeed, Vanessa, Jaap, Almadir.
Okay. Thank you for reminding us of that. So indeed, we were like 6 in the group and we had some technical issues. But after the technical issues were solved, we discussed a little bit. So Rua shared from Care Iraq and Malek shared from Care Jordan. Various projects that were basically work in progress with interesting research components. Care Jordan was piloting something new. So there's no evidence yet. So basically, we are not through the whole cycle and therefore have not influenced policy yet. So first of all, implement the project and then evidence is created. And then you can take that evidence to influence a policy. Other group members, for various reasons, did not have very sparkling examples of something that worked and of something that changed actual policy. We were thinking maybe we were also thinking too big. And also something else that we were discussing was that in previous work, that the problem that we have experienced is not that the policy change is the necessary goal or that is the main problem, but that availability of resources actually is the main issue. And then we discussed a little bit more about that, and then we ran out of time. So yeah, not a very clear example from our group, but more questions and yeah, and work in progress. Others can add if I forget something. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that these reflections that you had in the group go to what you're going to build, starting from the evidence that is being built, and the information that you get from this course might help the vision that you might have also for that evidence that you are gathering and the experiences that you're having with the vulnerable populations. So now we can go to group 2, please.
Yeah, so group 2 is Abdul, Ali, Pisa, Ilona, Karime, and Shaden.
Yeah, I don't think we actually decided who would share, but I can go and the other group members can jump in if needed. I shared an example with the group about a success that we had with Care Netherlands, where I work. Last year, colleagues together with other NGOs wrote a policy brief, the nexus of tackling the climate crisis, biodiversity loss, and gender equality at once, and why policies that address all three are more effective. So my colleagues collected evidence from Care Mali, where there's a project that really effectively makes local communities more climate resilient by teaching about sustainable agriculture, but specifically engaging women and giving them more financial abilities to build out their businesses around agriculture, and then engaging men and boys in the community to also address gender-based violence. So this was just one of the examples in this paper you're just full of learnings of how you can do effective policy when you implement all three, when you tackle all three aspects of these international issues at the same time. And then we presented this paper to the Dutch Parliament, and we also presented it to other civil servants within the government. And then we were invited to give a specific learning session about the paper to the Department of International Relations and Green Growth, like under our Minister of Climate. And thanks to that session, the internal goal for financing, like international climate financing by the Netherlands, that previously had no kind of integration of gender, didn't need to be gender responsive. There's now a target set that 88% of all climate finance given by the Netherlands should also have a gender aspect, gender transformative aspect. And this is an internal ministry policy for them to do their climate financing like this, but it was confirmed to us by allies within the ministry that this was changed because of the session. So we discussed in our group that it can be hard often to collect evidence from your wins or to determine whether one thing that you've done really led to a specific change. But at least within Care Netherlands, we are seeing this as definitely an advocacy outcome, even though it's not a policy per se that's out there kind of for everybody to see. Yeah.
Thank you, Karim. And can you tell us when did this happened?
This happened October 2024, so a few months ago. Well, the presentation of the paper was in September, and then the session was just after.
Okay, so the implications of this policy might not be measured at this point in time, right?
No,
Because
at this point, no.
Very interesting to know what is the result of that because it's a policy, right? So
Yeah.
what would be the impact of that policy in terms of the inclusion of women in those?
Yeah. No, sadly,
Yeah.
we don't know that yet because it's just a few months ago.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay. Do anyone has any question for the other group or any comments at this moment? Okay. If not, then I think I have to hand it over to you, Diana and Nadia, at this moment, because now what we are going to have is the next steps, right? The individual assignment.
Yeah, so Rosa, would you quickly like to run us through the individual assignments?
Okay, so what we would like you is to work on a PowerPoint and for you to present how a policy related to climate change has been changed as a result of an advocacy process. You are free to look for any example that you might want to look. In the materials that you have in the curator, you're going to find some examples. So you can base your research on those. But you can also find that I was also yesterday looking for some other examples, and there are many in cases of health and climate change, for instance, in agriculture and climate change. There are others that you can find. So what we were thinking is for you to make desk research to find these kinds of examples and have to come from a own experience, and then analyze the quality of the evidence for this advocacy process, and try to describe how it was generated, and also at the end to explain how or what would you do differently if looking to scale it up and replicate it, that example, no? Yeah, to make it yours and to try to scale it up. And that is the last part of the assignment.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rosa, for walking us through this assignment. Are there any questions, perhaps, about the assignment instructions or anything which is unclear? If not, you can always put a question on curator as well. Though the deadline for this assignment is already this Sunday. So let me walk you through the next steps. So if you haven't done so yet, I think only two of you said in the poll at the beginning that you haven't had the chance to go through the materials. Please make sure to go through the webinars from Daniel and Lemekisa and also the online course. As I said, we have the individual assignment due this Sunday, and as every module, we always have the final quiz as well. And of course, we want to hear from you as well about the feedback on this module. So please make sure to fill that one in. So that's it from my side.
Quick
Diana.
question. Chikondi is reviewing the assignments for module 2, right? And we'll get back.
Yeah, so she's going to provide the feedback today.
Okay, perfect. So be on the lookout for that, everybody.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone, for attending. Thanks a lot, Rosa. And we'll see each other again in 2 weeks. And feel free to post and continue making comments on the curator object.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Bye bye.
Bye.